So this is James. He'll be speaking. So he's an MIT alumni from like 25 years ago, but he's been doing a lot of cool stuff over the last couple of decades. He's currently the CTO of this company called Wonder, and you probably like there are a lot of like Wonder sub companies that you know a lot about, and he's going to tell you a lot more about it. He's one of like the pioneers of supply chain technology over the last 25 years. He's built it at Amazon. He's built it at Flexport, at a lot of other companies, and he's going to talk about like a lot of the stuff on like how agentic AI will transform a lot of like the routine processes in the supply chain infrastructure, how they're seeing it happen, and how you could potentially work together. So.
Slides. I sent it through Ramesh. Yeah. While they're trying to find the slides. So it was great. I think Danielle sort of paint a picture of what the future is. And hopefully my presentation today will sort of share a little bit on what is happening in the real world and how agentic web actually applies. Some of you might think through a technology perspective that, hey, once there's agent, everything's work fine, even when you have a single super AGI that can do it all. Well, in the real world, they're physical goods. So, and they're different countries with different rules and governments. There might not be trillions of agents out there, but there's definitely going to be at least one mega agent per country, and most likely an agent per company. But reality is, I think, as a consumer, right, we probably want to leverage AI technology to represent ourselves for different scenarios that we face. So the presentation is going to share a little bit like a real life scenario that I've tackled in my previous and current company, and sort of hopefully put things in context on how the reality of AI agents is finally here. So how many people here knows what this supply chain means even? Oh, that's pretty good. That's great. Usually it's like 80% no hands. So hopefully this feels a little bit more relevant and tangible. All right, I'll start talking so I can skip some of the slides. So I graduated here at MIT in class of 2000, so way back. One of the things that's very exciting to come to this conference and talk is because back in 1998, I was working in the MIT Media Lab in a software agents group, where I was working on a project called Market Maker, where the goal is to create an agent to represent you to go out there onto the internet to find other agents and barter goods. Instead of just buying, selling stuff, there are probably, oh, is there a mute? It needs to be done. There are probably, hundreds of millions of items out there that people will be happy to exchange with each other versus being thrown out to landfills, right? So that's sort of the key thing. So currently I'm working as a CTO at Wonder. Hopefully people hear more about it. We're currently in New York, New Jersey. We're going to open up a restaurant here in Boston Q1 of next year. And the context of my presentation is really to think about, what is the role of AI agent as well as human? Are they really at the point to replace the human coordinator, or vice versa? So quick background, as I mentioned, I was at MIT Media Lab back in 1998, 27 years ago. That's unbelievable. And yet we're still talking about building AI agents, right? So back then it was like there's not enough compute. Even now, there's still not enough compute. So hopefully there's a lot of great projects you can look at from the link on historical projects. But my first voyeur into a real project with AI is actually drone delivery at Rakuten over in Japan, where in addition to manually maneuver your drones, people think about how do I use AI to do adaptive learning to navigate to where they want to deliver their food. At Amazon, I sort of first jump into global logistics, where I learn the nuances of supply chain. And then Flexport is where beyond that to help connecting everybody together. And today, some of the really exciting projects I'll share at the end on what we're doing at Wonder and how I think AI agents are the only way to solve the problem we're facing. So imagine, right, like what in a supply chain world, what people really wish is that why can't the food or the good just move itself to you? Like, why is this so hard where everybody here need to coordinate to really have that, I think $10 umbrella was used a couple times earlier in presentations. For me, I was using ramen since I work at Wonder. Like, why can't the food come to you whenever you want it and coordinate that whole entire effort? So what is happening today in supply chain is that there is this role of a coordinator, what they call it, a freight forwarder, right, whose job is to look at every single entity that's part of the supply chain and communicate what is happening right now and what do you do as part of each step. And for a single global logistic movement, let's say from Tokyo to US, right, there is literally at least 12 different companies or legal entities you need to talk through to actually ship something from one to the other, right? Imagine for one shipment, these are sort of typical stats on how many emails, right? How many messages, how many phone calls you need to do to coordinate a movement from end to end if you don't own the entire supply chain yourself. So if you're big enough like Walmart or Costco or Amazon, you want to own everything. But for a typical person, a small business owner, you really have to coordinate with a lot of people, and that's why you pay somebody else to do the work for you. So therefore, the coordinator is a huge bottleneck in the overall supply chain. So this is where agents come in. In level 1, what we really want to do is have these autonomous agents to represent not just the coordinator, right? And this is why you need to have the agentic web, is that we want AI agent to represent all the different parties as part of this single supply chain for whatever you want to do, and empower them to make decisions, right? Not just to give you reports on what are the options to troubleshoot whatever that comes up. And there's a lot of stuff that comes up in supply chain for whoever have worked in there before. Again, these are sort of real examples. So a good example is, for example, for Flexport, right? Flexport has control tower. I think even 2 months ago, I left, I think 4 years ago, they released a lot more features. And what they've been doing is adding a lot of these sort of agents on top of their data across different supply chains to really capture and understand what are all the, what's happening, what are all the options, so that instead of looking at tons of data, tons of reports, it reduces all that coordination work down to very simple decisions that human can auto-approve or provide a manual override, right? So a 30 email that might be going back and forth on something can turn into a single click like, yeah, seems good, thank you, right? Versus reading all takes up hours of time. And at the end, you're like, oh, everything's fine. Just, sure, it's under $20 more to ship it, let's do it. Within Wonder, what's also interesting for us is we're sort of doing the last mile, right? We design our own food, we cook our own food, and our goal is to be able to deliver through restaurants to the customer wherever they are and however they want it. So today, we have a lot of physical drivers that goes out and pick up the items and deliver it to you. But we're working with drone companies. We actually have some robotics delivering food on college campuses through Grubhub today already. So as part of that, today we're going through a very standard way of making API calls back and forth to do a lot of the food delivery. But as you can imagine, right, there's all these little things that comes up where the delivery companies are creating their own AI agent on, hey, how do I jump over that step, right? How do I go around navigation? And for us, if something comes up, can we get information that's not part of the API for our agent to say, okay, I still agree that's okay, or no, that's gonna make the food really bad, let's cancel it and have it go back, right? So with agents, you're able to provide a more qualitative measure into your supply chain that is almost impossible to codify end to end across all the parties via API. So another really cool, awesome thing that's real that we're doing today, we actually have a lot of different models coming different parts, but one of the parts that why Wonder we're uniquely work on that maybe other provider cannot is that since we own our own restaurant, right, we own our own delivery network, what we've been able to do is be able to even coordinate how do we make sure that when the driver shows up, the food is actually done. So what's happening today is that you have two different parties who's operating independently, right? So you might have a driver who shows up super early, you might be spending their time, you see them all waiting at the restaurant, which is not good for them or the customers, right? Or maybe the food is done, sitting on the shelf, and nobody is going in there, but the food takes, let's say, 10 minutes to cook, or 7 minutes to cook, but then the driver is actually 20 minutes away. You do not want to cook right away, right? You want to wait 13 minutes before you kick it in. And there's a lot of conversation back and forth on coordinating that effort, because there's a lot of stuff going on. I wish things are that easy, but reality, there's a lot of stuff going on. But ultimately, right, you want agents to look at the scenario and say, yes, this food can last delivery or cannot, and make these decisions for you, because there's so many combinations out there. Not sure how true it is, but for me, in the real world, this is very exciting that market research says that many of the supply chain companies are deploying more agents as part of the supply chain. So therefore, I think it's going to help us all coordinate better, and hopefully through the protocols and standard created by Nanda that everybody's on top of, to provide a way to collaborate so that we can automate a lot more things that was not possible before. So ultimately, at least what's been done so far on using agents or machine learning on making decisions within supply chain, similar to probably many other industries, when you're automating very simple, repeatable tasks, that's something that is done today, and now there's better tooling for you to automate sort of these workflows. But something that is still very, very true, that I think agents can help us take it to the next level with more real-time data, real-world data and training, is that today they're still not very good at making judgments that we can trust, right, and handle exceptions. So that's something that really has to learn. And all of these three areas is where I think hopefully, whether you have single agent or multi-agents, right, is that the judgment, trust, and exception are very subjective, depending on what country you're in, depending on what part of your supply chain, depending on what you're trying to maximize. These are sort of the trade-offs you really have to think about. And I think this is something hopefully very familiar for people who's been working in the AI space, but for people who is not, right, I think this is a typical playbook on how do you think about applying AI to your scenario. And step 3 is probably the most unique one. So number 1, right, you want to make sure what are the frictional points that you think AI can help you versus pure research, which is also super important. Number 2, this is what everybody's hoping, right, be able to have clean data where the agent's working off of to make the right decision. And number 3, I think this is where it differs a lot between the real world companies and, let's say, academia, is that we really want to go for very narrow pilots to show ROI for implementing your AI agents, right? There's a lot of stuff I think is really cool to do. I want to do them all. But then as part of the business, we have fixed budgets that we need to continue the company with. So therefore, we are focused on what is the thing that the current technology is able to do, and let's go for that, right? Let's get the ROI, and then from there, we can take on more and more features. And then finally, which I think is a big topic being discussed here, is as we scale the usage, what is the governance that makes sense for your area so that you don't stifle innovation, but yet you try to prevent yourself from getting into a bad position. So lastly, part of Wonder's goal, and then what's happening today, is that we're working on trying to figure out how you as a person who want your next meal, right, we have AI agent that can look at your entire history with a portfolio of all the company we have acquired our food type, so that we can recommend and hopefully automate, you trust it so much, to deliver food to you under 30 minutes right now, under 28 minutes right now, hopefully, less than 10 minutes, so that when you're sitting in this lecture, magically food can come to you. And then lastly, for people who might fear technology, similar to what Daniela says, is that I think what's going to happen is everybody's role is going to be changing over time, right? It's not like jobs going to go away. I think the job's going to change. So in this case, coordinator whose job is really looking at emails, connecting people, that's going to be reduced over time based on the country or area that's able to get their AI representation. However, as a job role, it's going to be reducing. And what you're going to be elevating to is sort of being more of an orchestrator or conductor, whose goal is to sort of tell people how they should fit into our supply chain, what are your overall responsibilities, or give the high-level rules, and then be able to have agents that's intelligent enough to do the details to make sure that they can still follow the framework you provide that you're orchestrating, versus everybody has to do all the little details. Okay, so last two slides. These are the cool projects, that that we're currently working at Wonder. And I think, again, it's going to merge AI. And a good example would be, okay, how can we sequence all the orders coming in so that the first hot food and the last hot food has the shortest amount of sit time, right, as part of the cooking process. So you get the hottest food possible because you don't have a steak done waiting for a salad that's being done and the food gets cold. And how do you have the driver pick it up? So that's one problem. But then what's interesting about this is that we do have the physical element of it, is that there are many OR algorithms that gives you what is the best sequencing algorithm, right? So that part is there. I think we're pretty good there, not the best yet, right? But what's really important is that we do have physical kitchen layout that's different between each of the locations, and only through, I think, AI agent simulations where you can track and identify where the bottlenecks are before doing it. So for example, today, as we implement some of the new algorithms, we start seeing people stepping over each other. So magically, people cannot teleport. So there is physical spaces of how you want to sequence stuff that I think through AI simulation is good. And for people who are in gaming, I really wish Overcook is our interface for our simulator. So these are a real kitchen in a game that people can see. And then the other one, I think this is where a lot of companies are doing it. It's also pretty exciting, is that you have a lot of algorithms for delivery as well. But as drone delivery is going to become more and more the norm, I think it's already happening in Asia and some countries, but in the US, I think regulations allow companies to do that. So now there are companies that, including the one we're working with, that's doing drone delivery. So now, from a simulation for delivery, it's very interesting to see what are the different ways and how is that going to help us design our kitchens differently, depending on where they are. So I think that's it for me. Thank you.
All right, all right. I mean, you have, Wonder owns Blue Apron, Grubhub, Relay. So you have like a whole spectrum of companies. And the funny part is, in the agentic web, people often give examples of like booking a flight or ordering food. So you're the most common example that people use. So what would it mean to create interoperable fabric like the one that Nanda and others are working on? And how would that, what does it mean to be right now we're talking about AI and optimizing efficiency, use the word OR, operational research. Moving to the agentic web, where you have intelligence that's distributed and kind of even more network intelligence emerges out of that as a second order effect. So how are you thinking about that? The interoperability, the fabric of ability to connect everything.
Sure. Yeah, so there's a couple different levels. So one is, we know the user experience of ordering is probably going to change, right? Currently today, you order via your mobile app. You order via your mobile app, via the website. Right now, there's a lot of AI power search that, even an example here, you want to be able to order food through whatever interface you're in. So therefore, having the ability for the agent of whatever the group is talking to us, that's pretty important. We want to offer that. But the second order effect, which is very interesting and it's very hard to do today, is that when an exception happened today as part of supply chain, let's say a batch of pickles, which is also true, came into our kitchen, that's bad. We still need pickle in order to make the food. So today what happens is we have to place an order at some other grocery store or restaurant to fulfill it, right? So essentially, to me, there might be a secondary
Elasticity.
Yeah, let's say secondary industry could be created, right, where these parallel things that should work together currently are not, that it will just happen because it's so easy to do. Because if the other sites also have agentic representation, now you don't have to do all the legwork in order to make it happen. So that's why people don't do it today.
I mean, the elasticity we have in the digital world, where we can distribute compute and bandwidth, on-the-go basis. We need the same thing in the
physical world. Yeah, exactly.
As well. But my question was how does, what would it take? Do you think if you just allow a challenge for, the developers, the innovators here, saying, give me 10, give me 10 projects here and help me figure out at Wonder how this could be happen. Do you think maybe in 2 months we could have an agent that does some of the ordering? In the future, it could be cooking and delivery, but like in the beginning, what would it take for this group to help you get there?
Oh yeah. I do think it should be less than 6 months. One is figuring out what is the protocol that should go to A2A or MCP. What is the workflow diagram that people have said? So that part, I feel the flow is good, but the part that's really really hard, and I was excited to see some wallet companies here, is that how do you do the payment itself, right? So you really need to connect your personal information through whatever application you're doing. And an example of Grubhub or Wonder, we give you free delivery, no service fee. So therefore, when you place your order, you want to make sure that's carried through the interface, even though you're using a different one, right? So how do you have foundational technology that can make the transaction smooth end to end versus still fragmented, like, oh, great, thank you, I want to buy it, but like, oh, man, I had to pay $8 for delivery, that's not good. So any of those tech that can bridge these transactions across companies.
Who would here like to work with James and Wonder to make this demo happen in, say, 3 months?
Oh, that'd be
Who
awesome.
wants to do it?
Wow, that's great. Oh my God.
Do you want to create a challenge and help these people? Give
Sure.
them some existing data set and see if we can at least simulate in the beginning and then we can launch it.
Yeah, that sounds good. I'll think of more, but yes, sounds great. I already prepped the data, so because we're working, so it'll be good. Let's make it a real contest. It'll be exciting.
At Nanda, we'll create another working group focused on this problem.
Okay.
And we'll get this gang together. Are you going to order some amazing food when this gang gets together?
Yes, part of the test. Well, lucky I did get some weight, but not too much. But yes, a lot of
I'm up
great
for it,
cooks,
man.
a lot of ordering, a lot of testing. So it's great.
Thank you, James.
Thank you.
All right.